So we know recently people like Stephen A. Smith and Caitlyn Jenner and a lot of others celebrated OJ Simpson's death. And Camron went at them full force, saying like, hey, he was not convicted, even though a lot of people feel like he did it. And Camron went off on him, right? Well, Judge Joe Brown defended OJ, saying he did not do it in an interview that he did with Jesse Lee Peterson 7 months ago. Let's hear the specifics of this case, because a lot of this I don't think none of us ever heard. Shout out to my brother for sending me this clip. Let's check it out.
Did O.J. Simpson get away with murder?
No, I looked at all the evidence they had and talked to the experts. They never should have brought the charge against him. And four of the chief detectives that were involved in that OJ case wound up doing time in California for planting evidence. And as a matter of fact, if you saw the entire trial, there are several instances where evidence was planted and it's recorded on tape. The main reason the American public thinks she got away with something is because there was a sleaze known as Nancy Grace who's still around, and that was her first reporting thing. And she hyped that and put a lot of falsity out there, and the American public believed it because that was the only person they were here.
True.
I saw the entirety of the evidence. Nicole and Rod Goldman got their throats slit from ear to ear, their tongues pulled out of the slit with a pair of pliers. The fatal injury was a stab by a left-handed person. OJ was right-handed.
What?
It went in and it did that damage. There were no peripheral strikes. The footprints in the blood showed that somebody with a size 9 shoe, 9.5 shoe, and somebody with a size 9 and somebody with a 10.5 were there on the scene and did it. One of my late brothers actually was the expert the state was going to call until he refuted it. The glove man I know personally, his name is Richard Zuckerwar. He took a tracing of everybody's hand. It was a size large glove that fit Furman. And OJ had a 2XL, which was way too big. Johnny Cochran knew that. So if it does not fit, you must acquit. And you can see Furman actually plant the bloody socks on a video that the jury saw that Nancy Grace refused to talk about. The DNA evidence that condemned them, she said, if you saw what went on, and I recorded all of it and looked at it, the expert said, this doesn't exclude 96,000 people in the LA area, and the person that donated this is from the Northeast Mediterranean or from Sicily.
I got it. That's amazing information.
Yeah, well, I
don't know. I don't doubt you. I don't know if all this true, but
okay. But anyway,
if it's true, it's amazing.
Listen, I haven't done any digging to see if any of this is true, but off the face value of this, given that this is a judge, this is Judge Joe Brown, who has looked into a lot of these details, and he's given very intimate details to this case. I believe it, man. I believe that just listening to this 3-minute clip that OJ has been painted in the light all these years, that is contrary to what the evidence showed. It sounds like he got off rightfully. But the picture that was painted of him and the case and him running, and, you know, of course the running didn't help. Him going on just jumping in that Bronco, dipping out, didn't help anything. It made everybody look like, oh, he's guilty off the rip. But when you look at stuff like this, stuff I've never heard, I'm sure most of the American public have never heard, from years back to when it happened up until now, even after his death. But people like Caitlyn Jenner and Stephen A. Smith have just had the bad taste of what was fed to them by the media in their mouth. Wow. And so you got to realize this is why I am slow to believe when everybody is calling all people all of these things, and they're being painted in such a way in the media. People often call me a victim shamer. It's not that. It's just that when people come out with testimony, and you can see all the cases that are going on now, right? All the big cases from here to there to here. People calling out testimony. It is just, in my mind, normally it's like all these stories are swirling about who did what and who did that and who did this and who did that. But it's no proof. It's just somebody coming out saying salacious details of something that they say they saw or they heard or they witnessed. And I'm sorry, that's just not enough to call it proof to me. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at this and be like, well, if there's no proof for this, can we really say that this happened? You know, now, of course, you add up stuff to where it's like, if there's smoke, if there's fire, and you do the best you can to piece together what is true and what isn't. Because I'm not just going to say that just because somebody's testimony could be true or could be not true, that doesn't solidify the case. It's like you have to look into the testimony as best you can to try to see what's true and what's not. But when there's this much evidence, like in the case of OJ, that says contrary, he says it was two footprints there, 9.5 and a 10. So that's 2 people. And then the gruesome details of how they were even unalived that's crazy. Not just their necks were slit, but their necks were slit and then had me some pliers and went in and pulled their tongues out through the slit. That's serial killer stuff, bro. Both of them were done like this. That's crazy. And then the glove doesn't fit. And then, then there was evidence planted. On camera, someone planting evidence. Then the officers surrounding the case all ended up doing time for planting evidence. Come on, that is over and abundant evidence that says that the man didn't do it. But when you have a media portrayal that is going on every day where they convict you in the eyes of the public before anything is allowed to play out, of course you're going to seem guilty because that's the way they painted you to be. That's how they do it. They paint you as guilty. They give all of these false narratives. They undercut your character. They make you seem like a horrible person. And then in the public's eyes, you cooked. You already, of course, you guilty. Until someone says otherwise. And who is going to say otherwise when the real facts come up? The media decides not to report that. Because as many years as that has went by from that case, we've never heard this stuff. Unless you went digging for it. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I'm just gonna say Camron defended, saying, he was innocent and he was not convicted, so whatever. And Camron has a point. The point I gave in that video was simply I heard where Cam was coming from, and Cam had a point. But at the same time, I said that you can't blame people for feeling some type of way. Because if that was your people, and let's say you were blinded by the media brigade of what they said happened as well, then you really couldn't tell someone how you should feel if you thought that they was guilty and this was the person that unalived your family, So given all of that, I understood both sides of this case. But the words still ring true. Cam is like, he was not convicted. But we do know there are times people are not convicted and they get off. And look at Jonathan Majors, all the evidence that was in his favor, and they still convicted him. He didn't get any jail time, but he got a punishment as far as his career being derailed. Michael Irvin was set down because that woman just said whatever she said. So we do know cricket times where cases go wrong and people don't get justice from the law. But it seems like OJ got justice on this day because looking at all this evidence, I don't know, man. Seems like OJ was rightfully freed, and whoever killed Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman is probably still out there. But it's your boy P Camp. Let me know what you think, what you don't think. Get at your boy.